Welcome back, and welcome to all the new subscribers. Thanks so much for jumping on board. This time around we're going to look at our seats. So a bit's happened since the last episode. Sold my Harley, which was a bit of a sad moment, but it just hasn't been getting used since my boy was born and where I live. The last few times I rode it to work, had close calls with wildlife, mainly kangaroos. And you think about risk a bit differently when you've got a little boy waiting for you at home. So it was time for that to go. It's gone to a good home and it's going to get used more than I was using it. And it's freed up a little bit of money for other things. So I've just booked the seats in for their retrim, which I'm very excited about. That's probably the most expensive job of the project. Definitely way more than I paid for the car. So I'm looking forward to getting that out of the way. I've bought a full exhaust system and the RT type exhaust tip, so it's going to get a 20 exhaust. I've ordered a set of replacement sill panels so we can get into the last of our rust repairs. Well, there's still a few to go, but some more rust repairs very soon. But this time around we're going to start getting the seats prepped. So Trimmer said he can do the job around October, and which is good for me because that gives me a little bit of time. I've got to remove the skins off the seats, remove the foams carefully because they may or may not be reused, some of them, or at least used for templates. But I'm going to knock all the rust off the seat frames and probably, I should sandblast and powder coat them, but I'm just going to wire wheel and rust convert and spray paint the seat frames. So yes, the trimmer can do that, but it adds cost. I definitely believe in spending money on expertise like trimmers. As much as I wanted to have a go at it myself, I think it's probably a bit beyond me. But if there's things you can do yourself, definitely save the money. So I will prep the seat frames and I want to have them done sooner rather than later. So if he calls before October and says, hey, I'm ready, I want to be able to throw them in the ute and go. So we're going to get started on these seat frames. Thanks so much for watching. So we're going to go around the seat now. We're going to get all this seat vinyl off. We're going to remove all of these hog rings that are holding the seat vinyl on. They go right around the perimeter, and then we've got to work our way through the middle. And we've got all these areas where they are hog ringed. The foam is hog ringed onto the seat springs, so quite a bit of work to do. I found the easiest way to remove these is to get purchase on them with pliers and just twist them until they come off. So it is tedious, but we'll get there. Some of them are quite hard to get a grip on too, which So we've now separated all of our seat trim around the edges. So that's all ready to peel off. What we have to do now is go around and get all of these hog rings that are holding the seat foam onto the springs in the frame. So we'll get into that. We can actually separate our vinyl from the seat too at this point, so I believe. No, I take that back. So I've got all those hog rings out and the foam is now starting to come away from the seat. There was a few spots where it was stuck on with rust and water damage, but overall this seat frame is in far better condition than the lower and won't need any structural repairs, so that's good. We'll see if we can lift it away. Hopefully I've got all of the hog rings, and I have a feeling that we should just be able to lift this off. Now, one thing to be careful of is there's these wires that go inside the seat. There's one at the top at the front and the rear, and they help hold the vinyl into shape where it folds over. So there's two of those. I'm not sure if they're different or not, but I'm sure the trimmer will know. So we are done. I don't think there's any other loose pieces I need to be wary of. Oh yes. So I've got one wire here that's supposed to clip over the edge of the seat. And I have a feeling I might have picked that up with the pliers thinking it was a hog ring, so I'll fix that up. So now we can separate the foam from the old vinyl very gently. Make sure there's nothing else holding them together. Obviously it's been together for 50 years, so it's going to take a bit of separating. But that is our seat foam separated from our vinyl. And now we just need to go through and pull the wires out of the seat frame. So there are these wires. I'll try and pull this out. So these wires, 1, 2, 3, around every insert, and they help it keep its shape, and they also pull in against the foam in the seat base. So they're hog ringed through the foam onto the seat springs. That's how the seats are held together. So these need to be transferred to the new trim. So I'll remove them and clean them up. So here's a better shot of me pulling those wires out. So there is one still left in here. So there's one, and then we'll have 1, 2, 3 left in here, so I need to get them out. They will just rip out pretty easily because this material it's actually Valiant headliner material. You can see the perforations in it. So they obviously used offcuts. Anyway, but it is well weathered. So, and one more down here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we have the same on the opposite side. So that is all of them out. So I'm going to treat these for rust and give them a coat of rust converter primer, maybe even a coat of paint, just so that they don't corrode any further. So that is our seat frame separated from our vinyl, separated for our foam. So yeah, that's some solid progress. Now we can start looking at de-rusting and rust converting that seat frame, which should be a bit less work than the lower, which we've already done. Okay, so now I've got all that vinyl stripped off. We're going to have a look at our seat squab. So this is the base of the rear seat. And what we can see is we have a whole heap of corrosion, or it's really the result of rodents living in there and peeing, I think. So I've got probably 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4 of these support bars that are pretty compromised, and probably a little bit of this one here. So I've just been to Bunnings and got some of this 1/4 inch. It is galvanised, so we'll have to clean up where we weld, but steel rod, so it's convenient. You could buy that from Bunnings and it's the right gauge for us to use. So I'm going to start by cutting out maybe one at a time these affected areas and reshaping a new piece. So we'll start cutting these out one by one and creating shaped pieces. I'm probably not going to make the whole bend all the way around here. I'll probably cut them off in here and just pick it up, weld it to the frame in there, and just replace that straight section. That'll be plenty strong enough, far better than it is now. So we'll start chopping that out. All right, we'll start cutting some of these affected areas out. So that's our first one out. And we might do these one at a time. So we'll clean up this area, trim back here a little bit just so we've got something nice to weld to, and we will recreate this shape in the new material. So we'll get onto that. So you can see now we've pretty well got the shape we need. Just tune up this little bend here and we'll be on a winning streak, so that's good. So here's our first one we've just made up, just sitting in place, and I've just put a little mark there where I'm going to trim it off. So I'll get that trimmed off and we'll clean up all the surfaces and we'll weld this first one in place. I'm going to do them one at a time just so I can keep an eye on the heights of them all. I'm sure it's not super critical, but yeah. So we'll get this one welded in. So we've got our first piece clamped roughly in place. So we're going to put a tack on that end and then we'll position it, straighten it out a bit and do a full weld and get that one in. And then we'll work our way along the seat. So we'll start with that. That's actually pretty good. So there's what we've got, and there's our replacement. it's pretty good. It's not 200%, but it's at least 66%. So we'll go and marry that up to the seat. So that's number 2 cut and clamped roughly in place. So we've ground those ends down to a taper, so we've got plenty of opportunity to get the most weld penetration we can. So we'll get this end all tacked up, and we'll tack this end, and that'll be number 2 in place. So we'll get onto that. So there's number 3 all bent up. We've ground all our gal off the end, and then we've tapered the end of this here and tapered the mating part of the seat where we're going to weld to. And all the surfaces are prepped. So we'll get this one in position and we'll weld that in, and we'll be 3/4 of the way there. Alright, so that's that one in place. So now our frame is all repaired up. I'm just going to grind back, clean up a few of these welds a little bit, not go crazy, but just anywhere that's contacting the floor and has a sharp edge, we'll just smooth out. And then we'll get to cleaning it up with a wire wheel ready for some rust converter. So it's really good. I'm happy with how it's come up. Yeah, I was contemplating throwing this out and buying another seat base, but that would have cost me $500, and I've got about $7 in materials here, so it was worth the time. So I'm just going to clean up some of these welds quickly. So now I'm just going to get into probably an hour or so of wire wheeling all the surface rust off this. So I've just spent probably half an hour just going over this with a wire wheel and a wire brush on a drill and by hand. I haven't got every nook and cranny, but most of the thick scale is gone. So what I'm going to do now is give all these surfaces a coat of rust convert and primer product, and that's just going to stabilise whatever rust is there and provide a base for some paint. So I'm not sure whether to brush it on or to spray it on. Either way, I think I'm going to waste a lot of it, so I'll try the spray first, but yeah, we'll give it a coat. All right, so I'll leave this out in the sun now. It's used 1.5 cans of that spray on rust convert and primer, but we've got every nook and cranny. This is the product I'm using, Concept Paints Rust Converter Primer and Sealer. Now these are on my shelf, I've had them for a long time, so I don't know if they're even still available under that brand, but yeah, 1.5 cans of that. I would have wasted 3/4 of what I actually sprayed because you're only getting a thin cross section when you paint, but it's got to be done. So I'm going to let that set in the sun, and then I'll put that aside and we'll get the rest of the seats all prepped up to the same stage, and we'll bring them all out and paint all the seat frames at the same time. The price of paint, I've actually bought just a 1 litre tin of satin black, because you start buying rattle cans and it adds up real quick. Yeah, I know Repco I went to on Friday, it was $27 for a rattle can of satin black, and I'll probably need about 8 to paint these seats, so it was $54 I think for a litre of satin black. So I just bought a litre of satin black, and I've got some thinners here, and using a spray gun we'll be able to get a better fan and get more coverage anyway, so probably waste less. So that's what we're going to do. We'll get the rest of the seats rust converted and all prepped up to this stage, And yeah, then we go time for some paint. So, but that'll probably be it for me for today. We'll get into the other seat next time I get a minute out in the shed. All right, so I'm about halfway through coating this upper rear seat frame. This time around I'm using a brush-on rust converter primer sealer, and the reason for that is I have it here on the shelf. I expected the spray cans that I used to go a little bit further, but to be honest, by brushing it on, I think I'm probably wasting a little bit less product. It is tedious, no two ways about it, but it's coming along all right. But yeah, at this point I do wish I had the money and the time and all the rest to pay someone to just blast and prime them. But if you want to play around with old cars these days, unless you have a lot of money, you need to cut costs where you can. So that's all done, it's just drying off now. It was a bit tedious, and the texture will obviously be sort of full of brush strokes, but it's a seat base and it's going to be trimmed over. The main thing is we've neutralised the rust, so it's now going to dry off and then we can paint these, and that's the back seat ready for the trimmer. We just have to give some thought to the front seats. Now the front seats need quite a bit of work. The tilt mechanisms are locked. The passenger one I think looks okay, but I don't think the reclining mechanism works. And the driver's side, the tilt mechanism does work, but the cable's seized, but it also looks like here it's been welded into position. So anyway, next thing we'll do is get these out and start stripping them down, and we can have a closer look at what we're up against. Well, it's another day and it's early in the morning, but I'm going to take a bit of a calculated risk. They are forecasting rain in the next couple of hours, but there is sunshine. So I'm going to bring these seat bases, rear seat frames out and sit them in the sun for half an hour or so. And if I come back out and the sun is still out, I'm going to paint these super quickly. Because, yeah, opportunity to find time for me to get things done is very hard, so I'm going to strike all I can. So that's the upper, and we'll get our base. We'll put them outside and hopefully get that tiny bit of sunshine. I'm going to get the air compressor all set up and ready to go. I might even mix some paint up quickly and leave it in the pot. And yeah, I'm going to give this stuff a little bit of time to try and normalise to the outside temperature. They're not super cold, but the sun's about to break out from behind the clouds, as we can see. So as soon as that comes through, we're going to take that opportunity to blow some paint over these. So we'll see how we go. Righto, we're just going to get into it. So there we go, that's just one side done. So what we'll do now is leave them for half an hour or so, and if the weather will let us get away with it, we'll flip them over and do the other side. So there we are, that's them done. So I'll leave them to dry for a bit. There is a gentle breeze which is helping it out, but I think we've just beaten the weather because it's turned quite cloudy, so good to have them nailed. So there we go, there's our seat frames all painted. We got away, we bet the rain. They look pretty good, they're not perfect. But I'm really happy with that. So now I'm gonna leave these for a couple of days for the paint to go right. These seat frames where I've welded them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, all look great. So I'm really happy with that. So awesome outcome, really happy with how the seat frames have come up. Right, thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to cut this one off there. I've been back and forth in my head about whether to try and do the trim myself or whether to send it out. I think the smart thing is to probably send it out. And a couple of people kind of reminded me that, well, that's out, I can put some energy into other things. So seats will go out. They'll probably be, by the time this comes out, the seats will probably be very close to being sent to the trimmers. So I appreciate you sitting through this one. It was a bit of a boring one, just prepping the seat frames, but one of those jobs that needs to be done, and not everything on an old car is entertaining or glamorous. So it's a job that had to be done, and now it is done, so that's good. I lost a bit of footage at the start of that too. Hopefully you can tell that I'm learning my way around a new camera and microphone setup. So yeah, I did lose a bit of footage early in the piece, but that's part of the adventure. I've got some more parts in order for the car. Most of the exhaust stuff's here, probably 90% of it. Door trims, carpet, obviously the seat trim is in progress. What else? There's sill panels, bucket loads of things that are coming that I've just bought while I've got the money. So most of the big dollar items are sort of either on their way or very close to it. So we should have some more exciting updates coming very soon. But yeah, if you made it this far, I can't thank you enough. Yeah, really appreciate it. So please take care, look after your friends and family, and go work on your project car. Thanks so much.